Today, I'll be showing you how to make your very own collage quilt. Using scraps of fabric you already have on hand, with some scissors, a glue stick, you can make one of these too, to hang on your wall as a really pretty art piece. So get ready, gather your supplies, and let's get going. So like I said, you're gonna need a fair amount of fabric. I am fortunate in that I have a metric ton of fabric that I've been collecting for many years. When I am trying to decide what to add to my collage, I just go through and kind of what speaks to me. What do I want? What sounds good? I know I like a lot of florals, and I've used this in my collage, a lot of my collages. Let's see. Right here is a floral. Just keep going through everything you have. Also, like I did on this quilt, you want a pretty simple background, something more solid or plain, because that will make all the colors and the pieces and the little tiny details really pop. So as you can see in this quilt that I'm working on right now, I already have most of the pieces laid in place, but I haven't glued them down yet. And that's because I keep moving things around. I'll find a fabric I like and add like a big flower over here. And this ended up getting a little bit bigger. So actually, I didn't even cut this fabric all the way down yet. I started out much smaller, and then I wanted to add a window. So it got a little bit bigger. And then I decided to add a table for her to do her work on. So it got a little bit bigger. This is probably about the size I will want to end up with, but it was a lot smaller when I started. So I do recommend doing a piece of fabric a little bit bigger than what you anticipate doing. You can always cut it smaller. You can't add more to it very easily. So start with a larger piece of fabric than you need. And don't glue anything down yet. You can lay them down. They stick pretty well. It doesn't move too much when you wiggle it around. But that being said, I do make sure I grab my phone every so many items I add, and I snap a picture. If I like where I'm at with it, I snap a picture, because I have had a time where I threw the fabric up to like lay it out flat and see it, and all the pieces, like half the pieces, flew off, and I had to remember what I did. So I recommend just like saving your work on a computer along the way, taking photos of your work as you go, in case something happens or you have to move things around, then you know where they are. Once you have your fabric laid out and you have a general idea of where you want your piece to start to go, you can start cutting and pulling fabrics off the shelf. You're going to end up cutting way more than you actually need. You'll find out that you put something in a place. Like, for instance, I had this cat that I cut out. I did it very intricately, and I was going to put the cat in the window. I decided I didn't really care for the cat in the window, so I took it off, and I'm probably not going to use it. I had this butterfly, this beautiful tulip pink butterfly. I don't know if I'm going to use it, but I'm hanging on to it just in case. So I always cut more than I end up needing when I'm doing one of these quilts. I move things around a lot, and I change kind of the layout quite often. I was just going to do flowers along the top in my original idea for this quilt, but then I started finding that I wanted to add them all the way around, kind of like a border. So one of the things that I think is the most important when you're doing a quilt like this are the details, and cutting out pieces in a very detailed way. If you were to just cut a piece of fabric and not cut out any of the detailed parts, I don't think it would look quite as nice. Sure, you could do it and it'll still come out great, but I think having some of these details where like it gives it dimension, where I cut out like around her body right here and between her arm and her body, that adds a little bit more like realism to the piece. And then also like her hands here, I was able to tuck in so like she's holding the donut right there. Little details like that really matter, and they add up. In this piece right here, you can see behind it, I've cut out all the little holes, because then you can see the wallpaper, the paint in the room behind her. You can also see like on the little bee here, how its wings are cut out very meticulously, as well as its, whatever those are called on an insect. I don't know. Its legs, sure. All the pieces are cut really intricately. That takes time, a little bit of patience, and also really, really good snip scissors. I have them in 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. These 2 right here are Tim Holtz. These are his kind of fabric scissors, and I love them, and I don't remember the name on these, and I can't read it. I will put a link below in the video so you can find them, but I do recommend these very, very detailed scissors. Regular old fabric scissors aren't really going to get the job done for those really intricate cuts. They'll do it, but it won't look quite as detailed as it does here. Okay, so how do we get a piece of fabric like this to look as detailed or 3D as we do over here? Like I said, we use these really good scissors. The reason I have 3 different sizes, this big one right here, I used to kind of quickly cut like the outline of the fabric. And when I say quickly, I don't mean too quickly because they're very sharp and I have nipped my finger on them before. It hurts, you will bleed, and you will waste beautiful fabric by getting all your blood on it. So take your time. But this kind of cuts out like the bigger pieces. I use it when I find a really nice like piece that I want to use in a fabric. And I cut out that big chunk. I go through, I cut it down to size using the big ones. In fact, I'm going too slow here. And then I come in with the medium ones, and I cut a little bit closer. So this flower right here, it's so big that I will be using mostly these medium size. I use the very small ones for really small detailing like I did with the bee here, or I used it for these little clothing pieces with the clothespins on them. I used it for stuff like that, the more really detailed work. But as you can see, you just really take your time and go around everything. You want to get as close as possible, again, so it really stands out on the background. It will pop better than if you leave the background of the fabric on the edge. It won't look as clean or as nice than if you just take the time to go really, really slow. It is time consuming. However, I also think it's kind of relaxing. This isn't like cutting big pieces for a bag. There's something more calming, for me at least. There's more calming and like quiet to it. And I take my time. I usually put on an audiobook or a podcast, or I throw on a show while I do this. And I will continue to go all the way around. I've gotten to a point where you can see a little bit of, it's hard to see, that orange spot at the top right here. You can see a little bit of another flower. There's a couple options you have right there. You can either just cut it off, which is what I am going to do, or if you know where you're going to place it somewhere on here, you can see if there's a way to kind of tuck it underneath another flower or another piece so you don't see it as well. So that's up to you. If it's not too much of an awkward spot, you can just cut it off. That, again, like I said, that's what I'm going to do, because I think I can cut it in a way, especially with flowers or anything in nature. I love using nature pieces because nature isn't perfect. It does not have to be perfect. See, I cut it off and you can't even tell. I'm going to keep cutting all the way around here, and you'll never even be able to tell that there was a flower there or another piece. You know what I mean? Sorry, very intricate work. So you have this beautiful 3D looking flower. Now that I have this flower, I'm going to figure out where to put it on here. I know that my borders need some more flowers. And again, here, I'm going to move it a little bit closer to me. This is why we don't glue anything down yet. I'm actually thinking, I don't know, it might go better up here. I might move that bird. This might go better here, although it kind of looks like a fan coming down, or like something from, Stranger Things. So maybe I don't want to put that right there, right? So you end up moving things around quite a bit. Especially, I feel like almost more so towards the end because everything's kind of finalized and getting to that final spot. I might actually put it here behind this flower, or I may find I don't want to use it at all, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards right now because I can't find a spot for it where I really, really want it. I can always move this over here some, although that's too much purple. See, this flower may not work, which is why I say to cut more than you need. I feel like something needs to be filled in more over here though. So I may take these off. You know what? That's kind of good. And as you can see, I'm kind of, sorry, my head's in the way. I'm moving where this goes a little bit behind and a little bit in front of, just like a real bouquet of flowers. Flowers don't just like all layer and stack on top of each other or come layered like an art file, right? They go in front of each other and behind each other, just like in nature. So kind of lining things up in that way to move them both behind and in front of each other, again, adds a little bit more realism to the project. Okay, I'm kind of liking it like that. And then adding this here maybe. And then this flower, I don't know if I like it as much because it's not as detailed as the other flowers. Makes it not stand out as well, but I might move things around in a way where I do like them better. Oh, and there's my timer going for my sourdough. So I will be right back. Okay, now, sorry about that. I had to get the sourdough going. Now that I've moved around a couple things and I've come back, I don't like it as much, which is why another reason it's really important to take photos along the way. And you can go back to what I call an earlier edit, you can go back and see what you did before and how it compares, if you liked it better then or not. And you can move things around some more. I'm thinking I don't like this flower. It very much reminds me of Stranger Things. So I am going to save it. I'm going to save it for another project, but I don't think I'm going to use it in this project. So it's going to go over with my other pieces. I'm going to check my photos from earlier and see kind of how I had things, because I had it in a way where I actually really liked it. And so now I want to get back there. So I'm going to cut out a couple more flowers. I'm going to cut out this flower here from the same line. I do kind of like this one a little bit better than the last one. And I'm going to move things around and see if I can get it to a spot how I like it. I started cutting around this flower and I noticed there's little teeny tiny ridges. Maybe you can see them. Maybe you can't see the little bumps on there. It is important to kind of keep those in your flower and not just cut a straight line. Because again, very rarely are flowers perfectly straight, their petals with perfectly straight lines. And you can kind of just move the fabric around to get those ridges. And they don't have to be perfect. Nothing has to be perfect. This is your art. And like I said, nature is not perfect. So you don't have to be perfect. But just to get a couple little bumps and grooves, again, gives that little bit of realism. And I think really just makes the flowers and the items in here really pop. I don't want that flower that's kind of dipped in, kind of in there. So I'm just going to cut it out. Again, this is why I'm like, this is actually relaxing. It's something calm you can do while you're sitting and kind of figure out what you like about it, like what you don't, what you want to add, where you want to add it while you're listening to a book or doing, music, watching a show, whatever. Sometimes I'll just, if I have too big of a piece, I just cut it off and put it in my toss away bin. I keep going all the way around. And so I'm also, while I'm doing this, I'm looking at my quilt and I'm thinking about what I want to do with it while I'm adding more spots. And what I mean by what I want to do with it is, as you can see here, I added like these clothing pieces. And I have this idea and they're on like little clothespins, to use my thread with like some black thread or something, or white, and to sew along here to make it look like a clothesline outside. I was also thinking of doing some detail, maybe make that a little bit lower and add some thread here to look like the wire and a little nail holding the paintings up. I thought about adding some little steam marks here with thread. You can also go around and do different detailing. It's just something to think about while you're working on your piece. Like, what can I do to make it more fun or realistic or whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to do. And I think that's why I like doing these, is because you can make it whatever you want to be. There aren't really any rules. It's not really, it's meant to be a painting, almost like a fabric painting, or a fabric piece that you just want to look at. So you make it exactly how you want to make it. It doesn't have to, pieces don't have to line up. They don't have to make sense. You can just do whatever you want to do. Like the random little squirrel that is not, and the giant donut, like nothing about it really makes, artistic sense, except for visually, I like it. So that's kind of what I think about while I'm making it. What would make you happy? It's like the Bob Ross of fabric playing, I guess. What makes you happy? What do you like? And what feels good? I think that's why I really like the collage quilting. Oh, I definitely think I'm going to like this somewhere in here. I don't know where yet, but I'm going to cut some more flowers and really just mess around with it and see what I like. Okay. I think I have everything laid out pretty much exactly how I want it. I may move things a little bit as I get going, but to me, this looks good. I feel happy. I know some of this is just hanging off the edge. That's fine. I'll cut it off once I have everything glued down. I don't really want anything to move. So as you can see right now, everything's just laid down on here. Nothing is glued down. And here's where the magic is. Here's how we glue it down. A good old washable school glue. Elmer's washable school glue. You can use this. You can sew over it. It dries clear. It holds it down enough to where we can sew over it later. But this will hold it down until we're ready to cover the entire thing with organza and do the quilting. This is also the point in the process where it's really important that we take a photo, because as you can see, there are layers here of how everything is. This is on top of this. This goes on top of there's different layers, and the way things are woven to make it look more real makes it hard to lift up, glue, and put back how you had it. So if you have photos, you can reference those as you go to see how you had stuff. Also, if you put a little glue, you just, like this, hopefully you can still see, I'm still on camera. You put glue on the back. You don't need like a metric ton. Sorry if you can't see on the camera. And I like this glue because it's purple. You can see where you got it and where you didn't, and it dries clear. So you see there's a fair amount. Now if I were to stick this on here and then say, no, that's not where I want it, or kind of shift it, you still can. So you glue down the pieces just like this. I always have the purple one on hand because that's what I use for my kiddos for all their school projects and art projects. And I know you can see it. Like right now, that poor pug has purple behind him. That's okay. It's going to dry clear. I'm not worried about it. The only thing I don't want to do is, see, I'm holding it up here so I can show you. It's going to stretch and distort the fabric. You don't want that. I'm just setting it down here and I'm holding it with 2 fingers. Okay, let me see if I can move this up to show you. All right, so I'm just kind of putting the glue down. You will go through a fair amount of glue in this project, depending on the size and how many pieces you have. And then you just glue it down like so. I'm going to continue to do that all the way around the quilt. I actually like to get some of the smaller pieces like this out of the way first. I like to make sure they're nailed down because those pieces are a little bit more kind of intricate. Although this one kind of goes over that, which is fine because I'll be able to peel it back in a little bit. But if I can get some of these smaller pieces down, it's easier later because they don't get knocked or moved out of the way, if that makes any sense. The other thing I would advise, if you don't want to get your table all gluey, and again, this washable Elmer's glue comes off really easy. But if you don't want to get your table all gluey, I would lay down some kind of mat or parchment paper or something underneath your area, because you don't always want glue on your quilts or your fabrics. So protecting your table is a good idea. Also, if you get all over and then you get it on the front, you probably don't want that either. I should probably go get parchment, but I just don't feel like it. And you don't have to put like a ridiculous amount on. A small amount, see, I have to change that so it's more level. A small amount will do just fine. Because you are going to be putting some organza over the top and quilting that down, that will hold it in place. This is kind of just a temporary way to hold it in place until you're ready for the quilting portion. Okay, it's looking pretty good, but yeah, this one, I did this one a minute ago. I'm going to add more glue, and see, it's already drying clear on the back. But I decided I'm doing this kind of cattywampus, a little askew, so it looks better on the camera, but then it's a little bit harder for me to see what I'm doing. But that's fine, because we can fix it. And also, this is supposed to be her sewing room, which is kind of, you know, a reflection of me and my sewing room. And it's a little messy. Well, it goes my doggy. It's a little messy, a little bright, a little bit just kind of unique, and nothing in here is perfect, and nothing in her world is perfect either. And I like that. So I'm going to continue going all the way around and gluing. And then I'm going to get some of these pieces that go on to this bigger desk piece. And I'm going to get those so that way when I have to move this and then put it back, I'll show you that too. But for now, like I said, we'll glue some of these down onto her desk. And that way they stay there when we lift it off. And when I was doing this, I was trying to think, if she's sitting at her desk looking this way, her stuff would be kind of facing her. She could reach her coffee. Maybe that's a weird way to do it, but that's the way I was doing it when I was working on this. I was thinking, how would she have it and make it look kind of more realistic? Not that any of this is realistic, but just kind of adding that little bit of artistic like realism to the picture. Because this is art. It's art for my sewing room, but I just wanted it to, you know, make me happy, because it's for me. It's not for anybody but me and whatever. I felt like Bob Ross when I was doing this. I'm trying to see, does it bring you joy? And it did bring me joy. So that's why I made it the way that I did. And there's no really right or wrong way to do it. And I will say that when you are making this and you're just using, you know, school glue to kind of glue it down, even though you are going to use organza and stuff to really hold it into place, this isn't the kind of quilt that I would like wash. I would never do a quilt in this manner if I had planned on washing it or like using it as a quilt. This is specifically an artistic quilt meant to hang on the wall. And I do have one that I've had hanging in my room for, gosh, well over 10 years now. And it does just fine. You know, I didn't realize I glued the top of this cup, which comes off of here. That's okay. We will just either lift it or figure out a way to peel it back when we get further into the process. So now that I'm getting close to needing to do the desk, I've already nailed down a lot of this stuff or tucked down. I'm going to have to take it off. Again, this is why we take photos of the work how we want it before we just start gluing things down all nilly-willy. So then we can kind of move things out of the way. And then this is glued down so that I can lift it up. So first thing I'm going to do is peel that back. Kind of going to fold that over, move it out of the way. And I'm going to do this portion by portion. If I peel this back like this, then I can kind of make a line here. Oh, you can hear my kids going in and out of the other room there. Sorry about that. So we're going to put that like that, and now I'm bumping the camera. Okay, and then we can continue to work our way down. So now that that's kind of in place, I'm gonna go through. Reminds me of when I was volunteering in my kids like when they were used to be in kindergarten and TK and stuff, and the teachers would say dot dot not a lot. Here you kind of want to use a good amount, more than dot dot not a lot. So there, see, now I have that kind of exactly where it was before. Very little has changed. You can always lift it. So again, while I love this Elmer's glue, kind of lift it and shift it around a little bit how you want it. And then I can always do the same thing here. I'm just going to glue, I will fold it back and glue just where it's going to be on the desk. So then later I can fold it back the other way. There you go. And then later when I do it, I'll pull her back the other way and fold and glue back. So let's keep on going. I probably want to get her hand glued, but I also want to do the donut. So I have to remember, how did I have it? I had it so she could grab a bite of her donut if she wanted. And I'm going to take a minute, grab my phone, and see how I had it oriented. Because I had it in a way I really liked it earlier. I'll be back. So when I was going back to look at my photo to see how I had the donut orientated, what I can't speak. I noticed the donut hole in the middle had the old fabric in it, and that bothered me, and I'm extra. So good thing I have my scissors here still. I'm gonna clip it a little bit here and go through and cut the hole. I know it's like an extra step, but I saw it on the photo when I stepped back and looked at it, and it bothered me a little bit. So I'm going to go the extra mile here and make sure I take time to go through and cut the hole out of the center of the donut. And I'm going to get all this little white stuff. But it is a good idea to keep your scissors because you might not notice that you did that. And there, now the donut has a little hole in the middle like it's supposed to. And this is how I had it orientated in the photo that I took earlier. Because it's such a finicky piece, I am going to go through and actually, I guess not. I don't want to stretch out the donut fabric too much, but it is one small piece. So doing it like this is probably totally fine. So we're going to go ahead and place the donut like so, making sure her fingers underneath, the rest of her hand is as if she's holding on to it. Or she's setting down her donut so she can go back to her cutting. And I will, some of these finer pieces like this, they will just get sewn down. So I wouldn't worry too much about all the glue, because when you do the organza and the sewing on the top, it'll get sewn down. And I don't worry too much, but the edges, you do want to try to get them if you can, of these really big pieces. You just don't want them to like fray or get too messy over time. And make sure you stretch it back, kind of how you found it. Get everything in a good position so it doesn't wrinkle as you keep working. Okay, so as you'll see, it's upside down now because I've been rotating it, working my way around the edge of the quilt. I wanted to note, because I'm realizing as I went around, I'm leaving a little bit of a gap around the top and the bottom. And when I cut here, I'm going to leave a little gap around the sides. And that's because I'm going to add binding to this at the end. So if you plan to add any kind of binding, which you need to, or you can serge the edges or whatever it is you want to do to finish your quilt, you can leave a little gap so that way you don't overlap too much of your border, unless you want to. But I'm just pointing it out in case you would like to make note, to remind yourself to leave a little bit of a border or a gap or an edge on your quilt for your binding. Okay, now that you're pretty sure you have everything glued down, you're gonna want to just double check. Sometimes I give it a little bit of a shake. I'll blow on it a little bit. Moment of truth. See, did anything fall off? No, it looks like it is all glued on there pretty darn good. So you're going to want to still very carefully take this over to your ironing table and give everything a very nice press. This will help dry the glue. It will help kind of seal the glue into place and just make everything kind of nice and pretty. Make sure you smush out, while the glue is still a little damp, smush out any wrinkles that you may have. Fix before you seal it down. Make sure everything's how you want it to be. You can always lift and tuck and move things a little bit now. Once you seal that down with the iron, it's a little bit harder. You don't want to get any glue on your iron, so you can also, see, I can put my hands down, I'm getting little bits of glue, because towards the end you start probably getting a little sloppy like I did. So you do want to put some kind of cover or mat on top. Some parchment paper is fine. Just anything to go on top to protect your iron, or another cloth. I would be careful with another cloth though, because it might stick, and when you pull it off, it's going to peel up your piece with it. So just be careful, just be gentle, and protect your iron. We're going to go do that right now, and I'll meet you here again in a few minutes. Now that you've taken it over to the ironing table and given it a nice press, you can always go through. I've noticed a couple little spots that I could go over with more glue if I wanted to. You can add more glue and do it again, and keep doing that until you get it exactly how you want it. Or you could just, it's fine. I would make sure all the smaller pieces are really, really tacked down with the glue, because when you go over, you put the organza on top, and then when you quilt it, the quilting design may just barely catch it, or it may not catch it at all, depending on how dense your quilting is. So really make sure that any of the small pieces get really glued down. That's the most important part. The bigger pieces, you're bound to catch those really easily with your quilting pattern. But these smaller guys, you don't want to miss them, because then they'll fall when it's hung up on your wall. So once you have it glued down how you want, you're going to want to just kind of square it up pretty good. I am going to give myself, let's see, how much do I want? Probably at least 1/4 inch all the way around. On this quilt, I'm kind of making it up as I go. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want it to be pretty square, because you're going to be hanging it on your wall and you're going to be displaying it. So make sure it looks pretty good, right? All right, so I've done that side. I'm going to go around and do this side, and then I'm going to get my bigger ruler and do the other edges. All right, I've gotten it squared up in a way I'm pretty happy with. I know there's gaps here, but like I said, once you put the binding on, you're not even going to see that. All these gaps will be kind of covered and taken care of, and the binding will frame it up really, really nice. There's a bit more detailing I'm going to do. Like I said, I wanted to go in with some thread and make a clothesline for the clothes hanging up. I was thinking of making some swirls for the hot coffee and maybe some stuff to hang right there. And then I do like to take time and step away from these kinds of projects. If you just keep going and going, you get tired. And sometimes stepping away gives you like a new eye to see everything with. I started going ridiculous. I was going to put some thin vinyl here over the window to give it a little bit of like that glossy window glass look. Then I kind of went away from that, and you start kind of overthinking it. So for me, now that it's glued down and I don't have to worry about the pieces coming off or going anywhere, this is a good spot for me to step away from the project. You can leave your project on your table like this overnight, or you can get some foam core board and put one on the back and one on the top, and that kind of sandwiches it in place so you can put it somewhere safe. I usually like to do that, and then I can slide it sideways or put it under a desk or something so it stays safe, and then I think about it another day. So I'm going to go cook dinner for my family and have a good old-fashioned family night, and I will see you back tomorrow to finish her up. Okay, now that this is all glued down and pressed and ready to go, the next thing we need to do is put the organza on top so we can quilt it. But I want to make some notes about the organza. There are different kinds. They are not all created quite equally. I have 1, 2, 3 different types of organza to show you right now so you can see the difference. This first one that I have has like no shimmer to it. It is sheer, but it is not as sheer as these two, and there's no shimmer, like I said. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up super well, but it definitely dulls, and you lose some of the vibrancy in your collage when you put the organza on top. I don't love this one. I like a little shimmer and a little something, a little zhuzh up. This one doesn't have it for me. You can feel free to get one of these, but I don't love it. It dulls it, as you can see. So we're moving on to option 2. This one definitely has some shimmer, and I really like the way it looks. However, this one doesn't quite have enough like see-through. Like it's not quite sheer enough for me. If I had to pick a favorite, it's going to be the third one. So I don't know. I'm hoping the camera can pick it up, but you can see it's definitely better than the last one, especially once it's going to be pretty smooth on there once you get it quilted, but that's kind of what it looks like. And then there's number 3. This one's a shimmery, but it's a little bit more sheer than the last option. Sorry, it's big. All this organza everywhere. I feel like I'm going to a tutu or a ballet recital or a wedding or something. Okay, so you can see this one. This one's my favorite. Has some shimmer. Oh, like my nose. I need to powder that, my friends. This one's got a little bit of shimmer to it, a little shine, but then it is sheer enough to see everything through it. So I choose to use this one. So I'm just making you aware when you order your organza, especially now that we don't have Joann's around, we can't see it as well. Just be careful and look at the pictures and the descriptions, or talk to wherever you're buying it from to find out how sheer it is. I'm going to go with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this a little bit bigger than my collage. I'll probably give about 2 to 3 inches on each side or all the way around. And that's so when I'm quilting it in my machine, it has more room. Okay, so on to the quilting. Now that you've got your organza figured out, you've got your quilt top, the collage part, you need backing and your batting, and then we can sandwich this together and start quilting. So if you've never made a quilt sandwich, it's actually pretty easy. You want to start with your backing, and you want to make sure your backing is wrong side up. Once you have your backing wrong side up, you're going to use a little bit of 505 adhesive. You can pin it. There are different things. This is the easiest and the fastest, and it works great. However, it does stink and it is flammable, very flammable. So don't be spraying it around when you've got your candles and stuff lit. You're just going to give it nice, even spray. And actually, I forgot. Usually I like to layer everything and then fold it back and do it one part at a time. But I guess we're just not following a lot of rules today. That's okay. We can be quilting rebels, can't we? Okay. So once you spray it on there, you got to stick it on and smooth it really good. See, the problem with not having it laying out first and then peeling it back and doing it properly is you get some wrinkles. But it's okay. We will just smush those wrinkles back. Then, oh, you can see that's where I did it last because that's where it's starting to pull up. We'll spray a little bit more and we'll smooth it down. Some people hate this stuff. I love it and I hate it. I think it does a really good job. But like I said, I don't love the smell. It's not too bad, but it definitely has a little bit of a chemical spray smell. And so I don't normally like to use it in a closed room. Okay. So there you go. So far you've got your backing, your batting, and then next you will lay down your quilt, and I'll do this one the right way. Put down the quilt top, and you see how much room there is all the way around? That's really important when you're doing edge-to-edge quilting. The other thing you want to make sure is, I don't know if you saw here, this was like lifted up and folded over. Just make sure it's down. That's more important when you put the organza. So this is how you're supposed to do it, or how I typically was told to do it. Lay it down, fold it over, spray, and then fold it back down. And then I'm going to press it down really good. And I think I sprayed too much. I can feel some of the damp coming through. That's okay. It's all good. It'll all work out. Then we're going to go right there. Oh, I feel that's where I must have stopped before. Just spray a little bit. And I'm probably getting a little bit too close when I spray it. And that's just because I don't want the spray going all over the sewing room and getting all over the batting. That doesn't sound fun. Press it down right there. I'm like sniffly. My daughter had a cold and pretty sure I have it now. So fun. I'm sure the spray isn't helping all that, but that's okay. Oh, my hand's starting to stick. So I got some on the outside. Okay. So now we have backing, batting, and our quilt top right on there. Now, making sure everything's flat and exactly how we want it, we're going to lay the organza on top. I've never sprayed. I don't suggest spraying the organza down. I would just kind of smooth it out like this. If it naturally sticks to where you got it on the batting, totally fine. Not a problem. I would just smooth it out by hand. And then take it over to your sewing machine and do a nice long baste all the way around. And that's just going to hold it in place and get it ready for quilting. So while you're basting this down, I just wanted to make a note not to tug or stretch the organza on top, or else you'll get these ripples and you don't want the ripples. So just make sure you're going nice and smooth all the way around, and you're not tugging anything. And you're not getting ripples all the way. So let's finish it off. Okay, so it's all basted together. Now let's get quilting. One thing I love about my Bernina 990 is that I can switch it over to embroidery machine and do quilting or embroidery in a cinch. And let me show you how easy it is. I'm going to take out my knee lift, not knock it around too much. Where do I put it? Just right here. I'm going to pop off my Sew Steady clear table. Just set it right there. I'm lucky I have a koala desk, so I can just lift this baby right up. I always make sure that nothing's in the way, nothing's going to catch. And I lift the machine up. I go slow there all the way. And then I just take the embroidery module, this big guy right here, and I slide it in right there. And I'm pretty much ready to start embroidering or doing my quilting. Turning on the machine right now, and that's it. It's everything else I do is on here, and change the foot's already on there from the last time I did it, but it's all ready with the foot and the sewing machine, the embroidery unit, and I'm ready to start sewing and quilting. Now that you've completed the quilting, you have yourself a collage quilt. All you have to do is add the binding around the top. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you make your own collage quilt to hang on the wall. Make sure you show pictures. I'd love to see what you make. Bye.